August is about to begin, and if your garden still looks as lush and colorful as it did in July, enjoy it now, because everything is about to change over the next 31 days. Here's something nobody tells you. August is the single most dangerous month of the year for your flowers, not because of one big mistake, but because of 8 small ones happening quietly all at once while you're not looking. And by the time you notice the damage, it's already too late to fix it this season. So, today, we're walking through exactly what's about to happen inside your plants the moment August starts. The heat stress, the hidden pests, the fertilizer mistake almost everyone makes, and the 8 things you need to do from day 1 of the month to make sure your flowers don't just survive, but actually keep blooming all the way into fall. Let's get into it. Why August is different. Let's start with why August is different from every other month. In spring and early summer, your plants are focused on one thing: growing. But August flips the script entirely. Temperatures across most of the US push past 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And here's what most people don't realize: the soil gets even hotter than the air. Bare, unmulched soil can climb above 85 degrees just below the surface, and at that temperature, root growth basically stops. At the same time, shortening daylight acts like a biological alarm clock, telling perennials and shrubs to stop growing and start preparing for winter. So, August is a collision of 2 opposing forces: brutal heat demanding energy and shrinking daylight demanding shutdown. Get it wrong here, and you're not just risking this year's blooms, you're risking whether the plant survives winter at all. Tip 1. Deep morning watering, beating the heat and stress. So where do we start? With the most obvious thing: water. Except almost everyone gets it wrong. Here's the mistake: watering in the evening. It feels right. Cool things down after a hot day. But that's exactly the problem. Moisture sitting on leaves for 10 to 12 hours in the dark creates the perfect breeding ground for fungal spores. The fix: water early, between 5 and 9 a.m. Why does timing matter so much? Because afternoon watering loses up to half its volume to evaporation before it even reaches the roots. Morning watering does 2 things at once. It soaks deep before the heat kicks in, pushing roots down into cooler subsoil, and it dries leaves quickly in the morning sun. So fungal spores never get their window to germinate. Target 1 to 2 inches of water per week for in-ground beds, delivered through drip lines or soaker hoses under mulch, never touching the foliage. Containers and raised beds need daily, sometimes twice daily checks, since they dry out far faster than the ground. Get the watering right, and you've solved the biggest physical stress of the month. But there's a second kind of stress just as damaging, happening right at the flower itself. Tip 2. Deadheading. The screta continues, blooms. Ever notice a plant just stop blooming by mid-August, like it gave up? It didn't give up. It made a decision, and deadheading is designed to override exactly that decision. Here's the biology of flowers' entire purpose. From the plant's perspective is to produce seed. Once a bloom fades and starts forming seed, the plant redirects all its energy there, away from producing new flowers. Leave those spent blooms on, and you're essentially telling the plant its job is done. Snip that flower off before it goes to seed, cutting back to the nearest healthy leaf node or side bud, and you disrupt that signal. The plant redirects energy into dormant side buds instead, triggering a fresh flush of blooms. This works especially well on cluster bloomers like phlox, coreopsis, and bee balm, and on soft-stemmed annuals like petunias, zinnias, and marigolds with simple pinching. Here's a lesser-known fact: skip deadheading on hybrid garden phlox, and the dropped seeds revert to a wild, dominant, plain magenta type, which will eventually crowd out and replace the prettier variety you actually planted. So deadheading isn't just about more flowers. It's about protecting the exact plant you paid for. Tip 3. Nitrogen cutoff. The crucial pre-winter stop. Now, if deadheading keeps plants blooming, surely more fertilizer would help too, right? This is where it gets counterintuitive, and it's the mistake that causes real damage months later, in the dead of winter. High nitrogen feed forces rapid, soft, tender new growth. That growth needs time to harden. a process called lignification, which turns soft green stems into cold-resistant wood. Growth produced in late August simply doesn't get that time before the first frost. When frost hits, those unhardened shoots freeze, rupture, and the damage travels back down into the main stem or even the crown. The rule: stop all high nitrogen feeding on roses, shrubs, and perennials by August 15th. The exception is potted annuals and holiday cacti, which can keep getting a low nitrogen, high phosphorus formula to support blooming without pushing vulnerable new growth. Tip 4. Organic emulsing, keeping ropes cool. We've covered water, blooms, and feeding, but something happening right at the soil surface is silently cooking your roots alive. Bare soil in direct August sun can hit 100 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit in the top couple of inches. Above 85 degrees, root growth slows down. Above 113 degrees, root hairs actually die, along with beneficial soil bacteria. A proper mulch layer, 2 to 3 inches of shredded bark, pine straw, or leaf mold, acts like insulation, keeping soil 10 to 20 degrees cooler, holding it in that safe 65 to 75 degree zone. Keep it 3 to 6 inches back from the stem or crown, so you're not creating a moisture trap that invites rot and rodents. Warning: gravel and rock mulch do the opposite, absorbing heat all day and radiating it back out overnight, raising the temperature right where heat-sensitive plants like azaleas and hydrangeas least need it. Tip 5. Pest control. Tobacco budworm and spider mite alert. Your plant should be thriving by now. But there's a threat none of that fixes. Something feeding on your flowers from the inside, right now. August heat speeds up insect life cycles, and 2 pests do the most damage: the tobacco budworm and the 2-spotted spider mite. The tobacco budworm is sneaky by design. Moths lay eggs directly on flower buds. Larvae bore straight into the closed bud and eat it from the inside, the ovaries, the petals, all of it before it ever opens. So you don't see chewed leaves. You just see a flower that opens ragged or doesn't open at all. It hits petunias, geraniums, and calabrachoa especially hard. These caterpillars hide at the base of the plant during the day, so you have to scout at dusk with a flashlight, checking closed buds for tiny entry holes and dark fecal specks. BT or spinosad sprays work well if you catch them early, while larvae are still feeding on the outer surface before boring in. The 2-spotted spider mite thrives in exactly the hot, dry, dusty conditions August brings. It pierces leaf cells and sucks them dry, leaving bronze stippling and fine webbing on phlox, roses, and gladiolus. A strong spray of water on the undersides of leaves, or insecticidal soap, knocks populations back fast. So your plant survived the bugs, but there's one more invisible enemy, and this one spreads through the air itself. Tip 6. Deseason airflow. Preventing powdery mildew. Mild, high humidity, and crowded foliage create the perfect setup for powdery mildew and root rots, like fusarium and pythium. Here's the surprising part: powdery mildew spores don't even need liquid water to germinate. They just need stagnant, humid air trapped inside a dense canopy. The fix is physical, not chemical. Thin, dense perennial clumps, flocks down to 5 or 6 main stems per plant so air can move through the center. Remove dead or crossing interior branches to let light and air flow in. Water only at the base using drip systems, keeping foliage completely dry. And if you do find infected leaves, don't toss them in your home compost. Passive compost heat won't kill the spores. Bag them and put them in the trash, or they'll reinfect your beds next year. Ignore this and you get early leaf drop, blighted buds, and soil loaded with spores waiting for next season. Tip 7. Pruning in division. The right timing, the right mat. Here's a mistake that feels productive, but quietly destroys next year's flowers. Woody shrubs fall into 2 categories. Old wood shrubs fall into 2 categories: old wood bloomers and new wood bloomers. Old wood bloomers, like bigleaf hydrangea, oakleaf hydrangea, rhododendrons, and lilacs, are setting their flower buds for next year right now, inside the stems, during August and September. Prune them now, and you're literally cutting off next spring's flowers before they even show. New wood bloomers, like panicle hydrangea and smooth hydrangea, set buds on fresh spring growth, so their pruning timing is far more flexible. But August isn't just about restraint. It's also the best time to divide. Late August is the prime window to lift and divide bearded iris, peonies, and daylilies. The soil is still warm enough for roots to re-establish before the first freeze, while cooler air reduces stress on the newly cut crowns. Wait too long into fall and those divisions won't anchor in time, leading to frost heaving over winter. P8. Fall Prep. Your August transition plan. Finally, August is the bridge between summer and fall. Shortening daylight means it's time to sow cool season annuals, like pansies, poppies, bachelor's buttons, and sweet william, so they build strong roots before the soil cools down. It's also the moment to plant fall-blooming bulbs like autumn crocus and fall daffodil. Delay, and they'll actually sprout and bloom inside their storage packaging, wasted before they even reach the soil. And here's a shift in thinking worth adopting. For native perennials like coneflower, black-eyed Susan, and goldenrod, stop deadheading in late August. Let the seed heads mature. They become winter food for birds and shelter for overwintering pollinators. Sometimes the best care is knowing when to stop interfering. So, there you have it. 8 small actions that decide whether your garden fades out by the end of August or keeps blooming all the way into fall. But here's the thing. Everything we just covered protects this year's flowers. What we haven't talked about yet is how these same August decisions, the pruning, the division, the bulb planting, set up whether your garden even comes back strong next spring. That's a whole different story, and it's exactly what we're breaking down in the next video. So if you don't want to lose everything you just work to protect, stick around for that one.